Not the hill to die on. Documentation. First and foremost, and this is going to sound a little crappy, but work with me on this. One, look at what you're doing, whether it is an actual paper or it is a physical project as a scholarly pursuit. What you are doing has scholarly weight. Therefore, it should be properly documented so that not only judges, but other artisans can know what it was you did, why you did it, how you did it, what led you on that particular journey. Was there something in period that was like that? If so, please show me, so on and so forth. In creating the documentation, one, make it easy on the judge. If you make me go look for stuff, I'm going to get irritated. Primary among that, how many of you cite web pages in your documentation?
I've never done this one.
Okay. You know, there's two ways that's going to irritate me. One, I've got to bring a laptop and I have to type in your URL. Two, when it tells me 404 not found, I am really going to be upset. And then when I go to your documentation and there's not a last access date, you fail. Because I have no way to check your source. I don't even know when the last time you checked your source was. That thing could have been down for 5,000 years, or it could have dropped 5 minutes ago. I've got no way of knowing it. And if I can't check your source, I have no way to check the authenticity of what you're citing. Yes, ma'am.
Would you accept a QR code next to a website citation? So that, you can just scan it with your phone.
I'll be much less upset, yes. Still, if I get a 404, though. But, yes, a QR code is, and I'm not saying that don't use websites as sources. I'm saying make it easy for your judges to go and look, because some of us, we're going to actually check what it is you're telling me your source says.
So would it be good to print it out and have basically a separate document?
Oh, I'd love that.
Okay.
I mean, that I'm done at that point, because you've given me everything I want.
Okay.
Right there.
Is it a good idea to print off or scan your documentation and put it at the back of your citations?
Oh, including books and things like that?
Yeah,
To
to
just
scan
outright
the
include
pages
it?
you're pulling from and put it at the back.
That's probably a little overkill. I want to do a little work. I want to look at your book list, your bibliography, and go, well, that book looks dang interesting. I'm going to go to the library, find this, and if it's really good, I'm buying a copy. And so I'll go and I'll look for your citation and what you say it says, and if the book also looks good, I'm going to go buy it. So now,
Should I include blurbs of which books I liked?
we're going to get to that, because, yes. Let's talk about sources. We all know what a secondary source is. This guy was not alive during the Gothic Wars. He's compiling stuff by a bunch of living and dead people. And he's making it really readable in English. Don't be afraid to use them. But we all love primary sources. And you would think, wow, Procopius, he's right there with Belisarius. He is his secretary. He's on every campaign. He's at his elbow. He's with him in the palace. He's got a bird's eye view of everything that goes on, and he records it in very exacting detail. And I can believe this guy because he was there. Except a few years later, he published this, which is entirely different than this. This is happy, I love Belisarius and Justinian Procopius. This is Theodora, the Empress, was a hoe. And Belisarius was a whooped boy. And they were all corrupt as crap. Leaving you to wonder, Who do I believe here? Which version is the truth? You can't know, you weren't there. Yes, ma'am.
How do you deal with translations?
We'll get to that. So, in this particular case, I have a theory, and it's worth exactly what you're paying for it. This is, in fact, happy-go-lucky Procopius. I am riding the wave. I am at the elbow of the leading general of the empire. This is unhappy Procopius. I told Belisarius I wanted to be prefect of pick a province. Justinian said no. I'm ticked now. I am really going to drag their names through the mud for all of posterity. Now, I have nothing to prove that. It's just how I feel. If you, in this situation, choose to use this version of Procopius as the truth, please state why you don't think this is the truth, and vice versa, so that I, as your judge, know which one of these you went with and why. I don't have to agree with why you went with it. I just have to understand your methodology. Then there I was, emperor, leader of the armies, and this is specifically and exactly how I fought, how I armed my troops, how I won all the victories. Probably a pretty darn good source. So, then we'll turn to chronicles. Everybody loves a good chronicle. And the Byzantines had bunches. And good old Theophanes here, his chronicle starts with, and God created the heavens and the earth. How do you know, Theophanes? Were you there? Did you see it? So, no, don't quote that. Arcadius, who ruled in the 4th century, when did you live, Theophanes? Oh, you lived in the 9th century. So you weren't there either. So I can't believe you either. So tell me about the stuff that you actually witnessed. Now, by the time we get to that, we're somewhere like about there. So be a little. Now, on top of that, very few people in the period wrote chronicles without an agenda. There was something they were pushing. I'm reading a book about the Carolingians, and the author refers to the official Royal Carolingian Chronicles. And he says, these are so unreliable that you can't believe it. The dates are right. Those events, in fact, happened then. But the whys and the wherefores, well, this particular guy, he had an agenda. His king was the great-grandson of Charlemagne, and his parentage was a little questionable. And the whole Carolingian power structure was on the point of devolving into feudalism. So he needed a way to bolster his king's reputation. Well, of course, God blessed Charlemagne and intended him to be emperor of all Christendom. And that right passed to his son, grandson, and now to our beloved king. End of story. If you cite chronicles, know what their agenda is. Be prepared to tell us what it is, and hope it does not impact your point. Okay, so sources. Fast, dirty, or clean, however you want to go about it. Citations. Citations can be the make or break of what you're doing. When should you cite something? When should you cite something?
Anytime you make any sort of claim that that's what is said in your source.
If you're writing a paper on the 4 voyages of Columbus, do you need to tell me that the first voyage took place in October 1492? Because it's common knowledge. But if you say he landed at Sandy Keys, the Bahamas, Do you need to cite that? Yeah, because there's all kinds of disagreements on where. And I need to know why you say there, because Billy Bob says so? Okay, fine. If you have to choose between oversighting and underciting, oversight.
It's not an oversight to oversight.
Correct. Also, if there is some cute little point that you want to make, but it disturbs the flow up here, put a footnote and put that point down there. There's a point in a class that I teach about Fiore where I talk about, and Fiore is probably the descendant of imperial free knights. And the rest of the class flows on. But you really want to go, what's an imperial free knight? So you cite it, you put a little footnote and you go, hey, imperial free knights were cool because they had imperial immediacy. They could go straight to the emperor. So they get in a land dispute with the local baron. The baron has to go to the local count, who has to go to the local markgraf, who has to go to the local duke, who has to go to the king, who goes to the emperor. By the time they get to Vienna, I, the Imperial Free Knight, have already been there, got the decision, come back, planted those fields, and moved on. Now, that has no place up there in the paper, but it's a cool thing to know. And so, yeah, put that in the footnote. Also, if there's something that might tie to something either before or later in your paper, a footnote's also a good place to note that as well. But the overall point of footnotes is you're telling me where you got the information that you think I should know where you got it from. There are a host of ways to do citations. Pick one of the big official ones and be consistent. I don't care which one you pick. Just be consistent and pick one that is at least reasonably easy to follow. How many citations per page? As many as it takes. I have pages in this little class that have none. I have pages that have 6. So they should meet the requirements. At the end of it all, of course, there should be a bibliography. I've judged something recently that had no bibliography. You don't know how frustrating that is. Bibliography is that place that you can show me the depth that you went through to document this thing. Alphabetical, all that good stuff. If you really want to impress a Laurel, annotate it. Tell me a little bit about that source too. And this is where somebody asked, do I get to tell you whether I liked it or not? Absolutely. If you're writing a paper on the Battle of Bosworth and the fate of the princes in the tower, I want to know which ones of your sources are pro-Tudor, which ones are pro-Richard, which ones are neutral. Because that's going to tell me how you formed your arguments, where you went, and why. Because once again, if you're writing about something in which there's bias, and trust me, Princes in the Tower, there's more bias there than you'll ever see anywhere else in the universe. You know what I'm talking about? Okay, so Edward IV was King of England. He's Henry VIII's granddad. So think of Henry VIII, but tall and relatively thin. Well, sort of. And he dies. He's got 2 sons, 12 and 9. Should be a pretty simple deal. He appoints his brother, Richard, to be Lord Protector. At the end of all of the events, Richard is king, and the boys are in the Tower of London, which at that time was a royal residence, as well as where you put people to get them out of the way. No one knows with any surety what happened to the boys. There comes a time when you don't hear about them anymore, and that's that. So there's all kinds of theories. Richard was very close to his brother, so some find it hard to believe that he could murder his nephews. Others look at the fact that the nephews were allying with the people trying to kill Richard, the Woodvilles. So that gives him reason to at least put them out of the way. Henry Tudor has reason, if the boys are still alive in the tower, to off them because they're the rightful kings of England. So on and so forth. And every source that you read on this is going to have, as we talked about, an agenda. Some of them are going to tell you Richard was the finest example of chivalry ever. Others will tell you that he makes the Richard III of Shakespeare look gentle, and everything in between. So make it easier on your judges. Tell us your sources, in general terms, something about them. All right, now into the specifics. First off, please, 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 tell me in the first paragraph, what's it all about, Alfie? Don't make me go to page 5 to find out that this whole paper was, oh, I don't know, about the murder of the princess in the tower. Tell me right up front. Tell me your position. Tell me why. And then the rest of the paper becomes your supporting arguments. If you're doing a project, tell me which project is, in no uncertain terms. And we'll now look at projects for a moment. So you've told me what your project is. I'm making a Roman necklace of glass beads and gold wire. Give me photos. Show me what you did. Give me a step-by-step. Make this thing so that if I weren't such a bumbling idiot, I could do what you did. Document your path. Also, give me period examples of what you did so that I know that you're not out there on an island somewhere hanging pearls or something on a necklace that would have never had pearls or something along those lines. Now, your examples from period, they don't have to match precisely what you're doing. In fact, I hope they don't. But they should give me an idea that there is a bridge between what you did and what they did. And if you use, yes?
What if you were recreating something specific from period?
Then give me the example. If
Should you be giving other examples of things from that same time period, or just that one thing?
does this one thing exist by itself, or is it the end of an evolution of things?
I'm thinking the pearl monstrosity dress. It's like taken from we call it the period monstrosity dress. Is taken from a tapestry.
Yes.
So we don't have any extant thing of it. We just know it's from this time period. It's depicting this.
You just led into something really good. Keep going.
But because it's from a tapestry, because we're not recreating a pre-made garment, would we need to bring in other things that were like, this is how we saw on pearls in the period from that thing?
Yes. Speaking of tapestries, did any of you get to go to the Pavia tapestry exhibit? Was that not just the most awesome thing? So there were these 7 or 8
I think it was 8.
tapestries that portrayed the Battle of Pavia, which took place in February of 1525. They are so accurate that if you laid out a map of the battlefield, you could stick these things and draw arrows to where that happened.
Oh, that's
On top of that, there are a couple of scenes of the King of France with the gendarmes d'ordonnance charging. It is so well executed that you get the sheen of light off the armor. It is, I wish I'd brought that book. It's effing amazing. And yes, you could use this, one, to describe the battle. 2, to describe the clothing. 3, to describe the armor. There is one scene in particular where there are a group of, I know you hate them, Landsknechts. And they have they have wheel-lock rifles. There was one unit on the battlefield that had wheel-lock rifles, and a noble paid for them. And they were rifles. The barrels were rifled so that they would be accurate. In that time period, the only people who had rifled weapons were nobles who were hunters and used gunpowder to hunt with. These 20 or so fellows had dependable, i.e. wheel-lock, accurate, rifled long guns. And worse than that, they're in a line like this, and the French cavalry is charging right across their front.
These were the.
Pavia.
How do you spell that?
Pavia. The next panel shows the King of France being helped from his horse and surrendering. And back behind him is a field of dead gendarmes who have been gunned out of the saddle, or their horses have been killed out from under them. That's, once again, how accurate the tapestries were. And if you can find visual sources that are that accurate, do not be afraid to cite them. I feel that the visual arts.
How do you cite a tapestry in a series? Do you cite it like a book in a series?
You go to the internet, you find the one that you want, you download it, you describe it, you cite the website you got it from, and you're done.
Okay. So you're citing the website, not the tapestry.
Correct. Now you're going to describe what it is. You're going to say, tapestry 5 of a series of 8, blah, blah, blah. But I also need to know where you got it from.
So here's the question. So let's say I'm at a museum and there's like a piece of armor or tapestry there that I want to cite. Can I take a picture of it? Can I cite my own picture? Or do I have to go to the museum's website and find it on the website and cite it?
Can you put it up on your own website? Cite the
Or do
museum
it that way.
and then cite your website.
Honestly, if you were...
Like how do you, or if there's something that's not even a museum, like let's say I'm in Rome and I'm going to do like a thing of like, do I just have to go and Google it and then like
Narp.
I do have a webpage.
So there we go.
Have a site here.
Yes, there I was.
Okay.
Just me in the Battle of Pavia. Technically, I could cite that.
Okay.
I would screen me out of it because I don't need to be in the foreground. But you're there. You're looking at the very thing.
How do you prove you're there without a selfie?
Oh, I was gonna go. I do it like that. There I am.
Because I'm like,
But also, you're going to say, photograph taken by me at the exhibit at the Kimball Museum on X date. And if I feel so inclined, I'll call the Kimball and go, hey, was there a Pavia tapestry exhibit on this date? Oh, cool. And that brings me to the next point. So, guys, the whole point of this is, as a laurel, it's my job to see you all succeed. I want more of you in that circle so that there are more people to absorb that pain than just him and me and a few others. Okay?
I was going to say fresh blood.
It works. But it is our job to see new generations of artisans born, grow up, and become laurels. If we're not doing that, we are failing our job. And if you see me failing my job, kind of grab me by the elbow and go, Aubrey, Yeah. Okay. Now it's a contract between me and all of you. Okay. Now I am serious.
Ask, hey, here's what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Because maybe you're not seeing the whole thing too. So maybe that.
Well, I think you grab me by the elbow and quietly.
With the confrontation.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Because that's honestly that's what we should be about. We are a scholarly organization, and as a scholarly organization, I believe we are judged by the level of our scholarship. And it's his job and mine to help you get that part of what you do to the highest level it can be gotten to. Okay, so that's the generalities of it all. What questions do you have? Because there'll be future classes in which we go into specificities on research papers, on projects and papers, on experimental archaeology, if it stays a part of what we do, so on and so forth. This was just meant to be a broad overview, hopefully set a tone so you guys aren't afraid of me, because trust me, I want you all to succeed. That is what we are here for.
We all go. I have one.
Can I have this?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Do you have more?
No.
It's fine.
Oh. And then I do have more of the regular ones, which is what you're going to get back from us. Now, note on there that we don't get to judge the documentation itself, but documentation is referenced in each section. So, yes.
I already have a question on that.
Yeah.
So, what if it's just like a research paper?
I'm gonna go guard my
Like if
spinning
I
wheel.
submit for an ANS competition a research paper on the thing, and it's literally something that's like,
Oh, though I'm sure that between now and then, the Kingdom Minister of Arts and Sciences and I will have a discussion because, yes, I do not like how those sheets work with a straight research paper.
I was going to ask you something
because
similar.
my follow-up question was to be like, if I wanted to do like a paper on like an architectural like idea or like an engineering idea, but like I can't really make it because like it's like a building. Yeah, like I
You
can
can-
bring in a building.
No, but you can make a scale.
So that would be because I was thinking it talked about like materials. So would I need to like if I made it a scale like Roman Colosseum, would I need to like try and make it out of the correct materials, or would I get points off of it?
So my apprentice has this goal. She is one piece at a time building a medieval clock.
Okay.
It is not going to be a medieval clock. It's going to be a medieval clock.
Okay.
So it's going to be to scale, but it's not going to be one-to-one.
Okay.
And it's not going to, therefore, be faithful in all of the materials.
Yeah.
But it's going to apply the principles, and the things that are metal will be metal. They may not be the right metal, but they'll be metal.
Okay.
Do you have to have that material element?
Okay, what?
Sorry. Do you have to have that material element? Can I just turn in if this is my research paper? On
Yes. Yeah.
That was what I thought.
She just wants to do this because she's just into clocks and stuff. Got to get used to saying my fellow Laurel, because she's getting Laurel in 4 weeks. One kid out of the dang cradle.
I have to ask her, can you write a research paper on a premise or an opinion?
Yes. I wrote a paper once on why is the Battle of Nancy the most important event in Europe between 1477 and 1600. It's a matter of opinion. I can argue Pavius this is important. I don't think it is, but I could make the arguments. But as long as you can support it, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong.
Sterling silver.
Yeah.
Why is
You can write anything that you can support, but make sure you support it.
Yeah.
here's the same amount.
Anything else?
Yes. So, I am.
8 ounces.
I'm not necessarily working on it yet because the problem is, so I want to do a research paper on the like cultural and environmental reasons why Japanese textiles, like garments, in specifically like the Momoyama period, like right before you hit like the Edo period, why the actual construction varies so much from what we see in Eastern culture.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, court clothes or clothes out in the provinces?
Close out the provinces.
Okay.
The court clothes, I'm less interested in. Yeah, I've gotten that face more than once.
You are so broken.
I've also heard that more than once, even outside of the SCA. No, so the problem that I'm running into is there's very little English research in this, and especially because Japanese is so different from the Western languages.
Yes.
It's not something I can just pick up easily because I've done that for Hungarian sources. Like, it's fairly straightforward, like, whatever. This is a lot different. And so
Yes.
what do you recommend that you do when your sources are limited by things like language?
One, libraries in Japan.
Yeah.
There's almost always someone there that speaks English. Develop a relationship and abuse the hell out of that relationship. Two, there are organizations that have an interest, so I don't know why, in that sad period that you're interested in. Why that when you have the wondrous and glorious Heian era that exists before that? Japan at its cultural apogee. Instead, you settle for... Never mind.
No, I'm sure you know Maya. Maya talks about Dave.
Yes,
yeah,
I
she
do.
also thinks I'm insane.
She's right. However.
Well, and then the...
Yeah, it's a unique problem. If I'm working something during the reign of Charles V of Spain, one, I can read Spanish. Two, if I can't, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is someone in La Escorial or in the municipal museum in Madrid who does.
Is the best way to just reach out by email? Because I am a broke 20-something. I cannot afford to go to Japan.
No. You got to reach out by email.
Okay, cool.
And be prepared that this is going to be a very long and torturous journey. I have worked with the BNF. I can tell you it's a long and torturous journey. But in the end, you will get what you're looking for.
And you have cross-cultural connections then.
So my other question is the other problem that I'm running into is it's hard to find other people's resources on how to write a research paper into digital documentation rather than documentation for a physical thing, which also means it's hard to find examples of other people's research papers specifically for the SCA.
Not that one.
I would welcome if I could.
That one.
I could read some of yours.
Okay, so this is a class. It's not really a paper, so it's going to be a little not quite what I would want it to be, but it does have citations. I think I put a bibliography on there. Yes, I did. So, and I would minimally let that go through as a judge. I didn't do any annotation in my bibliography, so. But beyond that, there's also out there on YouTube somewhere a series of things that Laurel's did, talks and stuff about documentation and papers. Ask the Kingdom Minister of Arts and Sciences how to get to those. I blabber away in one of them about papers and stuff. And hopefully that'll be helpful.
Yes, that would.
I mean, I do not know where those went. Um,
But knowing
after I
that they're
watched
testing
myself, I
what
didn't know where it went.
does, So
Yeah. Yes. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I have a list.
Uh,
You go ahead.
I've done a lot of like engineering lab manuals. So at what point does like a research paper where I'm documenting the process do thing? At what point is that not? How do I keep that separate from it just being like a lab manual? Here's how to do the thing. And like if I was like doing like tests with like if I was doing the metal thing, I was doing tests of like here's how
Well,
like
so first, are you going to try to tell me how to make Roman concrete?
potentially
Is it a step by step?
I can't potentially. I guess that's where I'm like if I'm talking about like
You know what that is to me? That's experimental archaeology.
okay.
I'm going to recreate something that they did using the same or very similar materials and the same or very similar process.
Yeah.
A process I don't know, materials I don't have. So yeah, I'm good with that. And to me, that becomes either a practical project or experimental archaeology.
Okay.
And yes, lots of pictures.
Okay.
Or you could simply, say, here is a road from 300 BC, 100 BC, 200 AD, and you see the changes in how the road could be, how to, or it could be just like, here's information of how roads changed through the Roman Empire. And you're citing 3 extant roads that have been found across Europe.
Don't use Watling Street. That thing has been paved over and repaved, and the Romans,
But like if I was like trying to like
Dug up somewhere.
make
Watling Street in England.
so, like if I was like trying to like show like why Roman arches were good and I was making like a bunch of like different like structures and like running tests on them, just like putting like the figures and graphs of like here's all the data points that I have. Does that help you?
Have you heard of a thing called Murderbot? Murderbot, also known as Swordbot.
Yes, I
Is that the
loved
Roomba with
it.
a knife strapped
It
to the
was
top
so
of it?
cool.
And the whole point of it was, how much force does it take to drive this sword through the clothes that Danish noble was wearing?
No, I've never heard of this.
Oh my God, it was glorious.
It was
And he
so
was able to determine how many newtons it took to impart under that sword to get it to penetrate the material and to enough depth to take the guy's life.
Okay.
Because they actually have here is the outfit he was wearing. Like
and,
kind of,
and they had here's how to make the garb that keep you safe. And so he made like 4 of
We
them.
recreated
a machine that actually runs
This was way more accurate.
It was the first AMS project I ever saw.
Way more accurate.
It was.
So what I'm hearing is that like if I'm doing a project like that, putting all the data points and graphs and like tables of it in there is completely.
Oh, I got this. Arts? Sciences!
we
Yes.
don't have enough science.
Yes. In fact, every scientist we make leaves. Who was the guy that was Mr. Measure the Circumference of the Earth and we made him a laurel and 4 weeks later he transferred to Outer Mongolia? Galen of Ockham, yeah.
That he just used I know the process they used in period for that.
And yeah,
just like that.
Yeah, he did. He went to various and sundry points around the world, did the measurements. There it was.
That's crazy.
So, yes, do that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
This paper was fantastic.
I mean, explain how we came up with 0. The whole process of
Yeah.
Yeah, if it happens in period, you can do it.
math person.
How do you cite when you have to use materials because the original materials
One
are
engineering thing that I really
A,
want to
too
do.
expensive,
The
or B,
main thing that stopped me
non-existent,
Okay, so
I did not find the
C,
documentation of how the
chemically volatile to the person.
best thing I ever judged was a scroll. And I'm walking up to this scroll, and it's beautiful. And I'm like, that blue's wrong. Oh, that blue's so wrong. That's minus 15 right there. Let me look at the documentation. You've no doubt noticed by now that the blue is wrong. This was not the blue that I would have used had the choice of colors been up to me. I would have used this blue, and I would have made it using this and this and this and this. I would have crushed them in a mortar for about 11 to 12 minutes and then combined them with this liquid, and it would look like this, and there's a little splotch there. However, this scroll was commissioned by a patron, and this was the blue he wanted. Footnote, see below other examples of stupid patron choices ruining art. I'm like, oh, you're a 50 right there. So as long as you tell me about it, I'm fine with it.